Well, hello there, everybody, and welcome to the Fox Den here on the Fox D Network. My name is Heath Douglas, and I'm your host. And here on today's show is we have with us someone that could be considered the architect of the Matrix, although I do hope she's not as full as riddles and secrets as the same guy from the film. Please welcome to the show the founder and CEO of Mind Catalyst, Carnellia Ajasin. I'm sorry, I'm going to pronounce your name wrong.
Ajasin.
Ajasin. All right. Thank you, Carnellia. Thank you so much for coming by on the show.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time.
Oh, no problem. And thank you for yours. So there is definitely a lot to get into with what your company is, how it operates, what kind of services that you guys have in the tech world, and of course, what really the future holds for the virtual reality, which we'll get to in a second, as your company does kind of deal heavily with that. But before we get all that, we got to just talk about the sponsor of the show, and that, of course, is this network's coin, the Fox D coin. The Fox D coin is a totally community-driven coin with no pre-mine and no developer's wallet that is keeping the coin held behind a wall. Fox D is 100% transparent, and it is open to everybody and anybody, making it a coin for the people and by the people. The unique advantage of the Fox D coin is what it offers, and that is utilizing this right now, the Fox D network. The coin gives everybody the opportunity to get seen on our network and gives your content a chance to shine, with your audience growing with you and the network. We're always accepting new guest streamers and contributors to the network, so if you would like to expand your brand, you know what to do. Check us out on our website at foxdnetwork.com. That is Fox, the letter D, network.com. Or you can always support the coin as well at foxdcoin.com. That is Fox, the letter D, coin.com, where you can download your own wallet. Or if you want to buy some coins yourself, you can check us out on Crex24, BitSales, FX, and Free Exchange. All right, so starting off, tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of your humble beginnings, your background, and also tell us about what Mind Catalyst is, as well as kind of what made you go down this path of technology, VR, all that sort of stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So the path. So I started at Drexel University. That's where I majored out of Philadelphia. In computer science, and so did a lot of work graduated from there. Undergraduate work, not undergraduate work. Did a lot of work outside of my undergraduate studies,
right,
in the technology space, and moved into management consulting, doing a lot of work there with major Fortune 500 companies. In that realm, was really working as a software analysts, software developing, things like that, but not necessarily, in emerging technologies. And so that's something that I always wanted to do, because I'm more of I like more of the futuristic sort of, view of life. Like, where can technology go? How far can we take this in our lifetime? And so, worked for Ernst & Young, worked for Capgemini, did more of like ERP management systems, implementations globally, and left there for a while. Had some kids, got married and had some kids, and then as I was taking my break from the corporate sector, I thought, okay, well, what do I want to do next? I didn't want to do any more implementations, right, or lead teams to do that. I really had an inkling for, again, more emerging technologies, like what's coming next. Like, let's be on the frontier of technology. Let's kind of tinker with, how far we can push the boundaries of, what we can do with technology. Sure. And so, but also too, where it also has some meaning, right? And so where we are moving in direction of, technology that's really solving real problems, like not just business problems, trying to get XYZ company to make more money. Like more, like humanistic problems, and so that's more where I was gearing to. And I'm not sure if it's, because, I was now a new mom and, had children and things like that, and thinking about, life as a whole in a more holistic way. But, at the end of the day, that's how I was thinking about technology at that point in my life. And so I started my own business, and that's what we focused on. We focused on really solving really big problems with clients and founders. So we work with Fortune 500 companies and founders. We work primarily in the tech, innovation, and venture studio space.
Sure.
And so what we do there is we focus on studios, which is, really working in developing solutions for major problems that are really surrounded by or that uses or utilizes the medium of AI, machine learning, IoT,
Mhm.
and XR, so
Sure.
mixed realities. And um, so that's also the areas we work in. So we also have a sector where we work on capital, because a lot of times when we're working with clients, to in order to work on their product, they need money, they need capital.
Sure. Don't we
So,
all?
right. So, we found it hard to say, well, come back to us when you have some money, we can help you. So now we're like, okay, well, now let's also help you to find the capital so that we can all, you can pay us. You can also have some revenue for your company to help you upstart. So we also help with capital as well. And then also the third thing that we do is we're about to launch our own virtual accelerator that we offer, and
Wow.
that's going to be helping people to kind of, if you have an idea of a product that you're trying to manifest, we are there to help you to finesse the idea, make the idea make sense. Do the research with you, help you with doing the customer discovery sessions,
Mhm.
customer discovery process, really understanding the needs of the user and the product market fit, making sure there's a fit there before going out into the world with the product in hand. Because it's not uncommon that people will come to us and they have this idea, and they really haven't vetted the idea. It's like it hasn't
Right.
been vetted. And so most times we're trying to help them to vet the idea first, right? Because nobody
Right.
has money to put out something that nobody really wants, right? They're not going to spend money on it. It's not really solving a real big problem. The
Exactly.
bigger the problem it
Exactly.
solves, the more customer acquisitions that you'll have. So if it's not solving a big enough problem, then you're going to have a problem of having a product that nobody really wants. And so we really try to circumvent that, mitigate that for our customers. And so again, for us, it's really staying on the cusp of what's coming next, on the cusp of where we're going. Speaking of that, with this whole new news about Facebook moving, calling themselves now Meta, or
Right.
so we can see why they're doing that, right? So that's moving things forward. But poor users, right? Poor people who have been on Facebook for ages, it's going to completely change their whole experience. Some
Oh,
people
for
will find it
sure.
exciting, right? Some people will find that exciting, but other people may not necessarily, because I think with Facebook you have kind of older people, and
Sure.
the younger people are gone. The Generation
Oh,
Zs,
yeah.
they don't even use Facebook. So I'm not really sure, why, or how they're going to do. I'm assuming they're going to lose a lot of people also as a
Yes.
result of this. Who are older, who don't want to, have another change in terms of how they're utilizing the platform. But I just don't think it was fair to kind of spring it on them like that. They
Yes.
kind of
Correct.
have to do a little bit more. Um, I don't know, maybe because of PR move. I don't know what it was, but they've done a lot of that lately with security edits and things.
Yeah.
So people have been frustrated for years with them, but we'll see how it works. It sounds exciting for them, though. It sounds really exciting.
Well, I was about to say, I mean, when you hear stuff like that about with Facebook going to Facebook Meta, the joke is being Meta is like about yourself. It's kind of the breaking the fourth wall thing. So I'm with you. I'm kind of curious to know like where Facebook is going to take this because technology companies, like you said, always having to be on the cusp of what's the new thing or what is something that we can create out of nothing. So it's very interesting to see that they just, oh, by the way, we're not even alpha, beta, anything right out of the gate. Just, by the way, here's Meta. Take it as it is.
Right. That's how they did it, and it's well, I guess it's true to form, right? Because this is how they've been doing it for years.
Right.
And we all hear people complain about their security metrics and things of that nature.
Well, and I think kind of even on that thing about Facebook and not having that communication with customers, there is that thing where, like with a lot of big companies, being that they are a massive billion-dollar company, is you do kind of get to a point where what you're kind of filling the gap in with your company is they're losing a lot of that personal touch because as you grow and you expand and well, we've got this marketing campaign and that marketing campaign, and we've opened up, in Brazil, we've got this thing it becomes to where you stretch yourself so thin and you lose a lot of what your company originally started with. And like you said, we're I say we, not that I'm part of your company, but you saying we,
Yeah.
filling that in to say, hey, we want to be able to help you grow your company. We want to be, because that's what Facebook really was doing in the beginning.
In the beginning, yeah. And so, but for me, that's the thing, right? Like you said, it's when you grow so big, you get, I think the bigger you grow in terms of some companies, not everybody, there's a
Right.
lot of companies that are, their pulses on their people, their customers, their partners and such, because it's part of their DNA, it's part of their foundation, it's part of their vision and mission. But I don't think that's Facebook's, right? So it's like the
No.
bigger they got, the bigger they've gotten, the further away from their client they've gotten, the further away to their customers. And so that's really unfortunate.
Right, exactly. Well, and kind of staying on now, kind of turning back to your company, is kind of in terms of the name Mind Catalyst, where did that come from? And then also walk us through the process of kind of how you guys operate from when a company comes to you guys to, I would say, the final product. Not that there's a physical box, but kind of walk us through what kind of a day-to-day moment would be from the first time the client comes to you to the last moment their product's created.
Yeah, sure. So Mind Catalyst, of course I'm like, okay, what kind of name am I going to name it? Kind of figure that out really
Right.
quickly. But I wanted to, I wanted the name to sort of emote, the type of work that we were doing, right? So ideas come from the mind, right? And so ideas come from, really everywhere, really, but
Right.
it's our minds that are processing the idea, right? And so for me, it was about, Mind Catalyst, like what is going to be the idea, the friction that's going to make this thing manifest. And it starts from, your surroundings, your environment, even your culture, how you think, how you see the world. But it also still has to be processed and filtered through your thinking. And so, and that's the catalyst piece that for me, that comes about that. So that's how I came up with the name. And secondly, every day for Mind Catalyst is very different. like
Sure.
there's no same day, humdrum, mundane,
A
time to
12-step process that you go
yeah,
through. Yeah.
that's not our day. So and that's why I love it, right? And that's why I love being in an environment that, you just never know what's going to happen today. And so for
Right.
me, that's the other thing that really drew me to starting the business, so that I can create my own opportunities for myself as well as others. And so when people come to us, we have a framework that we follow, and that's typically strategy. So we start with strategy, and so and also that's just listening first to the client, right? And just understanding what problem are they solving, and then also for who. So what problem are you solving, and for whom? What audience? What persona of people are you solving this problem for? And then so the next thing is research, right? So we're going to research that to make sure that, is this problem big enough to even garner the time, energy, money to even put forth to solve, right? And so because you want to have a big enough problem to solve so that you can have some opportunity to move this forward and to scale this this idea. And so we do the research on that to make sure that there is a good parameter, good barometer that kind of lets you see that this is an opportunity that we need to pursue. And so we give people, of course, reports and information along the way. All of our clients are intrinsically engaged with us throughout the entire process. We're not like, okay, we'll take your order and then you don't see us for the next 4 months. I was back in the day, but today it's more, it's lockstep, it's iterative, and so our clients are working with us along the way. And so then we work on, kind of mocking a prototype. So we mock up a prototype with our clients, giving them a general sense or idea of how the product could possibly function and work. With our prototyping phase, our MVP phase, which is a minimal viable product phase, we want to make sure that the product or features and functionality are minimal, right? So that's why it's MVP. Not the most valuable player, but minimal product. So we want to make sure that we're not going to test or put out there all of the features and functionality you could possibly think of. We want to just have the really core functionality, core basic necessity functionality that will help someone to understand how your particular product actually works. And so we typically incorporate 1 to 3 features in an MVP. And then we just test that out with real users and say, hey, with this, of course, we don't just send out to random users. We actually have a controlled environment of users who typically may have a similar interest in this type of problem that's being solved by this product. Excuse me. And then we actually have them validate that idea or invalidate it, right? So they say, yes, I would buy this product because it makes sense to me, or no, I don't, so we kind of gather all that data, all that information, because all products that are driven by, that are data driven, they actually do much better than those that don't, right? So we want to make sure that we have the data to back up, this idea, and if it makes sense to enough people, which means that the problem is big enough to go ahead and actually create this product. And so once we gather the information, we evaluate, we kind of analyze the data, right, to see, as I mentioned, what makes sense in terms of directions, because sometimes, oftentimes, users, look at your product and they say, this makes sense, but I wish it did that. And then also, well, had you thought about this? This would be missing. And oftentimes those suggestions are pretty good. If you look at Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and all these other applications that are out in the space, they didn't look anything like they looked today. Back
a lot of UI changes too.
Exactly. And so a lot of those changes, UI, UX changes, CX changes, were actually, sparked or influenced by real users, people who have done the testing, they've actually asked questions about the application, who's complained about the application, who's given some bad reviews, who's given some good reviews, people who just left and said, forget it, the hell with it, I'm out of here. So really getting all that information, and then sometimes we help our clients to to evaluate which of those comments can then influence how we're going to tweak the UX, how we're going to tweak the UI, or how we're going to tweak later on even the CX, which is the customer experience, when they're actually using that outside of the application. So you have the application itself, and then you have the service around the application supporting the application, which is more the CX experience. So, and then we go to build, right? And so we're building our first MVP. And so we don't necessarily build the entire thing out. We build just, again, the prototype, and then put that out into the market. I think it's smarter to put the prototype in the markets first before putting the full release 1 out into the market. And then we can let our first set of evangelists and customers kind of beat it up, take it around for a couple test drives and drive it as recklessly as they want. And then we get that information, we get that feedback, and then we make sure that we are also, again, evaluating, doing the analytics around that with our clients to make sure that it makes sense as to what we're going to change, what we're going to delete, what we're going to edit as a result of the outcomes of that.
Well, and that's fantastic that, you guys are so thorough with going through that, because again, kind of like going back to the Facebook thing is, a lot of companies have gotten so far away from that. And like you said, there's not an automated process of, okay, here's 12 things we're going to go through, because like you said, every single client's different. Every single person has different needs. And you can't just put this one client into this box and that client into that box, because they may have some sort of different result where, like you said, once you test drive that thing, it may be a completely different outcome than like, whoa, that's not what their needs were for in the first place.
Yeah, we've had that we've had tons of situations where, the client's like, okay, this is a great idea, blah, blah. And even the research shows it's a great idea, right? And then it gets out into the market and it flops. It's like, well, people aren't, so then we have to pivot, right? We have to kind of pivot that idea. Excuse me. And oftentimes that's, it's taken well, and other times it's not taken so well from the client. So, I don't care what people say. We still want this product out in the market.
Right.
Maybe that's what happened with the Google glasses. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, everyone wants the James Bond watch. We were all promised that was Sean Connery, so it had to come sometime anyway.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, we're trying to get to that Jetsons lifestyle. We're getting there slowly, and I think
exactly.
COVID also has pushed us into that stratosphere. COVID has helped us to, I feel anyway, to push things out a little bit, further and faster than we had expected. How we work, how we learn, all of these elements of our lives have been really just catapulted, right? In terms of putting it out there in the new stratosphere of how technology can be utilized.
Correct.
And I'm happy about that, but a lot of people aren't.
And that kind of leads me to my next question is obviously a lot of younger people, millennials, Gen Z, they understand a lot of this technology stuff, which is, again, what your company primarily deals with. But, you have some of those older folks, maybe some of those, the boomers that we always make fun of sort of thing, where, they might have a company and they're losing sales. They're not garnishing enough people and they want to turn to technology, but again, it's not really their strong suit. How do you try to kind of pitch that sale to maybe some of the older generation that they may not be technology inclined, but you can still show them, hey, we can scale your business from 0 to 100 overnight?
Yeah. It's funny because at the end of the day, either they're going to accept change or they're not. That's, you can't really beat a dead horse if they're not. I mean, you can't. Really, I don't know the saying about you can't have the horse. You can take him to the water, but you can't make him drink.
Yeah, exactly.
So you don't bother with that. But hopefully, a great leader would have all types of people around them, and so they're going to have young people. They're going to have mid-level people, middle-aged people, and people they're going to mix it up to bring in some fresh blood, bring in some new ideas, and so to me, a great leader would have those people already on their team around them anyway, to be more receptive of ideas that are new and innovative, and so. If you and again, if you're the way the world is and the way the world has always been, if you're not willing to move forward with the progression of how society is moving, then you get left behind. You're not going to have any. And so, for me, it's not a tough conversation. It's either they're interested in moving forward and being profitable continually, or they're not. Right.
Right.
So
exactly.
It's really that simple of a discussion. It's not a I have to convince them, or it's really that I don't. I don't see the need in doing that, because I feel like if they're a ambitious leader, they're already going to have the right people already around them, and they're going to be receptive in anything that's going to help move them forward with the progression of the rest of the world.
Right. No, I agree. And it does have to do with kind of who you're marketing to as well, what your group is, because there might be something, for example, if you are looking at an older demographic, an older demographic may obviously not be online more. So, if you're selling the old scooter carts that, you see older people have, they're not going to be more inclined to go online. They want to see more of the physical product versus someone like me who I'm like, hey, I'm young, I like tech. I want to see what it does in a YouTube video. So, that's where it might be easier to try to get someone that's 20, 30, 40 years old to get on versus 50, 60, or 70 years old to get on board.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, and it really depends on the product, right?
Yes, exactly.
I mean, if I say maybe not a scooter, maybe, if it's an older, 60, whatever year old person, I can say, hey, how about an electric bike? That might be more suitable for them than a scooter.
Right.
I mean, because they
Exactly.
don't want to fall, because like, it's hard for them
Oh,
to,
sure.
falling and things like that may be something they may be concerned with. So maybe, so it really depends on the type of product we're talking about before we can you really dabble into, what would be the best way to approach them in terms of giving them some, helping them to transition or
Correct.
pivot to the next phase of their businesses.
Correct. Correct. Now, of all the positives though that your company does, and you guys are doing a lot, you're making great strides. What would you say is probably some of the biggest obstacles that you guys do face in such what some may call a niche space of trying to ramp up one-on-one to be ahead of the game? Like, what are some things that you guys might say you would face in your area?
Well, like you said earlier, or alluded to earlier, getting companies to sign on to uh, something that's new and unproven, right? I mean,
Right.
that's the area that I really would like to dabble into more, but that's harder to sell. That's harder to get people to talk about. Even metaverse right now, in
Hmm.
terms of building a strategy around how would how would metaverse benefit your business.
Right.
Um, so maybe some companies are gun ho. They're like, let's do this. Other companies
Right.
are still a little bit reserved. They want to kind of wait and see. Like, I want to wait and see what everybody else is doing first before I
Sure.
step in. So it really depends on what kind of leader we're talking about. But those are probably some of our biggest issues or complaints that I would have, is that we're not delving into the kind of universes that I'd like to move into as fast as we
Hmm.
could, because some of the clients that we are working with may or may not feel comfortable investing in that right now, because it's too
Right.
early, it's too new,
Exactly.
the tech is too new. It hasn't really been like the profitability of implementing that technology hasn't been proven yet, right? Yeah, the
Yeah.
technology is cool, it's awesome, but how am I going to make money off of this? Yeah.
Yes. Right, exactly. Now, I know this may sound like a fourth grade question that you got asked back in the grade school days, but where do you guys see yourself in maybe 5 or even 10 years? Or is that maybe something where your guys' vision is constantly changing because you're trying to be on the cusp of something? Do you guys have an actual plan of, oh yeah, we want to do this in 5 years and this in 10 years and 15? Or is it like, hey, we're always having to be like in 6 months, 3 months, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so it's a mixture of both, right? Because I mean, as a visionary, yeah, I'm always thinking about what we're going to be doing next. So
Mhm.
again, back to what I said earlier, I'm very interested in us doing, pushing the envelope more in
Sure.
terms of what and how far we can take technology in terms of the emerging technologies. I think in the next 5 years, for sure, I see ourselves being more. I mean, we're global now, but seeing
Sure.
our the work that we do more so global in nature, and
Yeah.
even having an office outside the country as well. Um, and I also see us doing more really deep technology, really deep intrinsically,
Mhm.
um, you know, AI, machine
Yeah.
learning, IoT, and IoT lends itself to us building hardware. So I see us
Right.
doing a lot of that, because now, we have a little bit. I mean, relatively speaking, we have devices that are more IoT related, Internet of Things related, but I
Right.
can see the future being more IoT related products that are out there in the
Right.
healthcare space, in our personal life spaces. We have our Googles and our Alexas and things of that nature, but
Mhm.
there's other things in our lives that could also benefit from having an IoT solution as part of that. And so I see a lot of IoT being also part of the big future as well,
Right.
as well as machine learning, IoT, and of course we know mixed reality, kind of
Yeah.
metaverse types of technologies. And I see us being very intrinsically involved in that. Not having to sell that as a hard sell, as
Sure, sure.
maybe more of an easier sell, because it's already been proven. It's already more in the spaces of where we're working, and people can
Mhm.
kind of see that as something that's viable for them.
Well, and I think it's one of those things too where, like you talk about, a lot of this stuff is kind of already in place. I even think about some 10, 15 years ago when people were talking about like, you know, integrated technology and AI and VR and all this sort of stuff. Like, oh, well, that's just going to be a fad. Like the PlayStation View, that's going to die out in 2 years or whatever. It hasn't. And so to say a lot of, like you're talking about, to have people now say, oh, well, that'll never fly. It's like, oh, buddy, a lot of stuff flies these days. You can't just go like, oh, that'll pass. No, it goes by quick, man.
Yeah. Even their cars flying. I mean, our cars,
Yes.
cars flying, or more, like I don't know I don't know the statistics, but they were saying the number of autonomous cars, that's going to be on the roads within the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years. Definitely see that. I definitely see that. Certainly, certainly when the gas issue was going on with last year, I think it was sometime this year. I wished that I had an electric car. So,
yeah, that's right.
I was thinking, I think I need to get an electric car next time. So, yeah, because, we need to be more fuel efficient. And also, it goes back to what I said earlier about our mission is that, we want to create products that or help our clients create products that are really improving life in the way we work, the way we live, the way we learn. And so, in our healthcare society, 2/3 of the money that we spend is on healthcare and food and, education, all these areas. And so those are the areas that we want to concentrate more on in terms of having a direct impact of solving real problems for people as it relates to technology. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And in terms of even with your company and kind of what you guys do you have any sort of other competition out there in the market? Or are you guys really one of those that you're just so far light years ahead that, whoever would come behind you guys would have to catch up?
No, I wish that were the case. No, we have tons of people that we aspire to that, who we want to be when we grow up. Like, that I want to be like that company when I grow up, or, the Teslas of the world. I find Tesla, Elon Musk I think is a genius. And I think what he's doing is phenomenal. And so, and it is, it's a tech company, right? And so, yeah, we're not there yet, but certainly there's a lot of inspiration around us. A lot of companies that are doing things the way we would love to do them, at some point. But we just keep our eyes open and just happy to be in the space and continuing to be innovative as much as we can, and then improving upon. Like I said before, just trying to push the boundaries as much as we can.
Yeah, exactly. And it is always one of those things where, especially in the tech space, is because it advances so rapidly. I mean, it almost seems like anymore, my gosh, you turn around every other week and it's like, oh, that came out. Like, like you didn't even think about it ahead of time. And so now you have all these people catching up trying to get to it, because you even see how, like in the cell phone market, is you'd have Apple would come out with one thing. Well, then Samsung would come out with 2 weeks later, but then Samsung would come out 4 weeks later. So it's always this thing where it's like, it's so quick now versus, I mean, you look at kind of how our parents, even grandparents, grew up. I mean, the record player slowly became the radio, versus now you're like, I mean, it seems like you blink your eyes and you're like, oh my gosh, that already came out. Okay, we're behind. So it's definitely something that you guys probably deal with very harshly.
Yeah, and funnily enough, that's what drew me to the field itself and in general, right? Because I like change, I love change, and you really can't be in this space if you don't like change, right? It will be annoying to you, like, oh my God, now this, now that,
Right.
So for me, I like that, I enjoy that, and so it's really about, again, it's about Mind Catalyst is about
yes,
what can I imagine.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. And I love the century we're in. I love the technology, because I don't think I could have survived in 1910 without Wi-Fi. Just like, I'm so used to it now.
Or Waze. I need Waze.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. I have had such a pleasure talking with you. I mean, it's been awesome. And your company is fantastically awesome. And for those of you that are watching, we will definitely have links to the website. So if you do want to get in contact with Mind Catalyst and with Miss
Carnella.
Yeah,
Carnella Ajasin.
Because I was like, I was going to do the last name, but I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad. But yes, if you would like to get in contact with her, you definitely can that way. But again, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for introducing the world of AI technology to us, and really best of luck to all the endeavors in the future, which is kind of ironic to say, talking about
the future's today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time, and this has been great.
All right. Well, have a great rest of your day, and have a great rest of your morning, noon, evening, night, or wherever you are in the world. Thanks for watching, everybody.